Good afternoon to all the students. So in the last class we have started our discussion on the hashing concept. We have gone through various introductory concepts related to the hashing, and in today's session we are going to deal one important topic related to this hashing, that is the collisions and collision resolution techniques. In this session we will discuss what a collision is and how we can resolve when collisions occurs, what are the various collision resolution mechanisms we have in data structures, and we'll discuss each and every collision resolution technique with one example each, right? So after this we'll give the summary of this hashing techniques, and then what we'll do is we'll try to solve some problems related to the hashing which was given in the earlier GATE examinations, right? It is just for the practice purpose only, right? They will be very easy and they are all formula based problems, right? So please concentrate on this particular topic, very easy topic. So coming to the concept, so we know what hash function is. Hash function is used to generate hash values or hash keys, and we also know what are the requirements of a good hash function, as we have seen that the hash function should be easy to compute and it should be executed quickly and it should distribute the keys equitably, and similarly the last one is it should have less collisions. By this we will come to know that it is impossible to avoid the collisions. Collisions will definitely occur, right? So when collision occurs, how you are going to solve the problem, or how you are going to allocate another memory location for the collided value, is how we are dealing with this collision resolution techniques, right? So what a collision is? So a collision is nothing but a situation where more than one hash value will generate the same hash key, right? So it is the situation where more than one value will result in generating the same hash key. That situation we call it as a collision. In other ways we can also say that a collision is situation where when a key generates when a value, when given to the hash function, it will generate a hash key, and that particular location, if it is occupied by another value, then such situation we will also call it as the collision, right? So any way you can define the collision, but here what I am going to tell you is you should be in a position to define the collision with your own words. That is what I am saying, right? So you can simply say that a collision is a situation where more than one value generates the same hash key. Simple technique, right? So as I told that it is highly impossible to avoid the collisions, but you can handle those collisions. That's the reason why you may get a question like what are the various collision handling mechanisms we have, or you can also say that collision resolution techniques, right? Both are same only, don't get confused. If you are asked a question on collision resolution techniques and as well as the collision handling mechanisms, both are same only, right? So there are mainly two ways to handle these collisions. Now we have discussed what a collision is, and now we are going to discuss how we are going to handle these collisions. When collision occurs, there should be some provision that you should allocate that value in the hash table. You should accommodate that value inside the hash table. You should not deny the value to be allocated the hash table, right? So anyhow you have to place that value inside the hash table. So how you are going to deal with this particular collisions? that is called as collision handling mechanisms, and there are only two collision handling mechanisms. The first one is open addressing and the second one is called as the separate chaining. And again in this also we have in the open addressing we have other three subcategories, like open addressing can be dealt with the linear programming, let us call it as 1.1, and it can also be dealt with quadratic programming, and it can also be dealt with double hashing, right. So there are three subcategories of this open addressing, and there are no subcategories for this separate chaining. We'll see one by one why this is called as open addressing and why it is called as separate chaining, and how we are going to deal this with linear probing, quadratic probing, and double hashing. All these things we'll discuss. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Clear, sir.
Right, thank you. So one more important point regarding this open addressing and separate chaining is we call this open addressing as closed hashing, right. Don't get confused, right. So this open addressing mechanism is also called as closed hashing, and this separate chaining is also called as open hashing. So if somebody asks you what this closed hashing means, you should remember that the closed hashing is nothing but the open addressing mechanism. Similarly, open hashing is nothing but the separate chaining mechanism, right. And yesterday also we have discussed the important difference between the open addressing and separate chaining. Can anybody tell me what is the difference between open addressing and separate chaining? Anybody please respond. What is the difference between open addressing and separate chaining? Say yes or no.
No, sir.
No, sir.
In open addressing, we writing same.
Sir, additional data should be given for separate chainings.
Yeah, that is one thing, separate chaining, but the main difference between this open addressing and separate chaining is in open addressing you will be using only the hash table slots only, right. What is hash table? How do you implement hash table? At least tell me what is the definition of the hash table.
Data structure to store key value pairs.
Super, right. It is a data structure which is used to store the key value pairs. So in general we will be making use of the arrays concept to implement this hashing concept. The reason for this is I already told that the values which you are going to store should have a corresponding key, and that's the reason why we are calling it as a key value pair. So if you are making use of the arrays for the hash tables, the values which you are going to store are having some implicit key values, that is the indices of the array. So the indices of the array can be used as the keys for storing the values. So this is the important point you should remember, that is regarding the hash table. So in the open addressing what happens here is every value that you are going to store inside the hash table will be stored in the hash table slots only, right. So here I have defined a hash table having a size of 10. So the index range starts from 0 and ends with 9. So whatever element you want to store, everything will be stored inside these array locations only, that means this hash table slots only, right. But in separate chaining, the name itself is saying that you are going to chain the elements, or you are going to link the elements in a separate, as a separate link, right. So there is not a mandate that you should always store the values inside the hash table slots only. For this hash table slots we will be creating the linked list, and then we will link each and every node to this hash table slot, right. So this is the main difference between the open addressing and separate chaining. We'll see it with an example, don't worry, but you should remember the main difference between the open addressing and separate chaining, right? Only simple statement. Open addressing makes use of all the slots of the hash table, and separate chaining may not use all the slots of the hash table. Right. So this is all about the introduction part of this collision handling mechanisms, open addressing and separate chaining. So let us take an example and then we'll explain each and every concept of this linear probing, quadratic probing and double hashing using example, right? So let us take a data set like 21, 31, 41, 51, 67, 78, 96, 54, 27, right? So let us take 9 values which I want to insert inside this hash table, right? Let me take the hash function h of x as x mod 10, right? So it is nothing but we represent it like this. Let us take the first value. What is the first value here?
21, sir.
21. So if I want to insert the value 21 inside the hash table, I directly I'm not given the provision to insert 21 directly into the hash table. Before that I have to do some processing. The processing is you have to insert or you have to give this 21 as an input to the hash function, right? So if I give 21 as an input to the hash function, I will get it as h of 21 is equal to 21 mod 10. What is the result?
1, sir.
1, sir.
Right. So this is called as hash value or hash code or simply hash we can call it, but I am going to call it as a key. It is also correct only, no doubt. So I am going, whenever I want to insert a value, I am going to generate a key here. So in this particular key I should insert the value 21. So I go and search this index 1 in this hash table and I am going to insert this 21 here. After this you go to the next element 31, right? As I told that you cannot directly insert the values into the hash tables, you have to pass it to the hash function such that it will generate a key. So if 31 is passed to this hash function h of x, so h of 31 is equal to 31 mod 10. What is the result?
1, sir.
1, sir.
So it again results in 1, right? So you go and search whether 1 is empty slot or not, but here the slot of 1 has been already occupied by an element 21. So here is the collision, right? As according to the definition of the collision, when more than one value is evaluating the same hash key, that results in the collision, right? So if 31 is there, 31 is having a key of 1 but it is already occupied, hence the collision has been erased. As I told that since because of the collisions you should not deny the allocation of the values inside the hash tables, you should use some handling mechanism, collision handling mechanism, and you must store these values inside this hash table. So let us take the first case of linear probing. Let us go with the open addressing, and within that open addressing I am going to take the linear probing. So according to the linear probing, when a collision occurs, you should probe for the next vacant location linearly, right? That is the meaning of linear probing. So you should check whether the next location is vacant or not. This searching mechanism continues until you get a vacant location. So 31 is collided at this location. So according to linear probing, you search the next location, that is the index 2. Is index 2 vacant or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Therefore you have to insert this element at this location, right? Now go to the next element 41. Again I have to pass this 41 to the hash function. So h of 41 is equal to 41 mod 10, which also results in 1. Now if I go and search this in the hash table, the first index is already occupied. So according to the linear probing, I probe the next location. Again this location is also occupied by another element, which is 31. So according to the linear probing, again you go and search the next empty location, next location. So the third location is empty, therefore you have to insert the element 41 in that location. Right. Similarly, you go with the 51. 51 also evaluates to generate a hash key of value 1. Go and search 1, 1 is occupied, go to the next location, 2 is also occupied, go linearly and search the next element, that is also occupied, and then go and search the next location, so that is also Are you able to listen to my voice?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry, I had a problem with this. 1 minute. Give me 1 minute of time. Right. So after probing linearly, I found that the location 4 is vacant. So I insert this location. I insert this value here. Right. So this is how the linear probing is done. That means you are going to search for a vacant location linearly. That is the reason why we call it as a linear probing. So next, coming to what this 67. What does this 67 evaluate to? What is the hash key of this 67? So it is 7. Therefore it is vacant, you just insert it. Next, 78.
8, sir.
8, sir.
Therefore you insert here. Next, 96.
6, sir.
6, sir.
6. It is vacant, go and insert. 54.
4, sir.
5, sir.
54.
4, sir.
The
Sir,
hash
4,
key,
sir. 5 local insert out, sir.
yeah, but you have to tell it from the first, right? The hash key generated is 4, but here the collision has been occurred, and therefore the next location will be probed here, and therefore it will generate the 54 will be stored inside this fifth location. Next, 27. The hash key that is generated will be 7.
7.
Go and search,
Ninth
it is
location.
occupied. Again 8 is searched, again it is occupied, and go and search the next location. It is also vacant. It is vacant, and hence you have to insert the element at this location. Now let us see another value. Let us try to insert 37 here. Right. So when I want to insert 37, the hash key that is produced for this is 7. So I go and search for this 7. Similarly, I go and search, it is occupied, therefore go to the next location, it is also occupied. Go to the next location, that is the 9th index, it is also occupied. So what you have to do is you have to search the next location, which is called as the 0th element. Right, is it clear?
Clear,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So this is called as the wrap around configuration. So once you reach the end of the hash table, you can go and search from the first index also. This is called as the wraparound. That means the hash tables makes use of the wraparound configuration. This is another important point, you should keep it in mind. So here the 37 is integers. Is it clear up to this one?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Clear, sir.
Right. So let us see what is the disadvantage of this linear probing. So the disadvantage of this linear probing is all the elements, when a collision occurs, according to the linear probing, you are going to check the next location. If it is vacant, you are just inserting it, right? So if this happens for n number of times, if this happens for more number of times, what happens is, for example, you consider this 21, 31, 41 and 51, right? So after 21, 31 is occupying the second location, and 41 is occupying the third location, 51 is occupying the fourth location. when this continues, you can observe that all the elements, the sequence of elements are occupying the contiguous locations, thereby they are forming the clusters. So we can say that this is a cluster. So the disadvantage of this linear probing is clustering. So to avoid this clustering, the authors have introduced one more new collision handling mechanism, which is quadratic probing, right? So according to the quadratic probing, you are going to probe for the next element. In a quadratic fashion. Quadratic fashion means you will be searching the next location in a square method. That means I square. We make use of the I square methodology, right, where I can be the collision number, right? So let us check for this quadratic probing. So coming back to the first element, that is 21. The 21, after giving it to the hash function, it will evaluate to 1, and therefore it is inserted into it. Why? Because it is vacant. And next, coming to 31, it also evaluates the hash key as 1, and since it is occupied, now what you have to do, you have to, since it is the first collision, what you have to do, you have to search at the location I square. What does it mean? Are you there?
Yes, sir.
So what does it mean?
One
So
square.
since it is the first collision, I have to make it as h of x plus 1 square.
Plus 1 square.
That is I square. We have to make it as I square. So the corresponding function for this quadratic probing is h of x plus I square. So for the first collision, I becomes 1, therefore I have to make it as h of x plus 1 square, that is 1 plus 1, that is 2. Okay, done. So I have to probe the second location. When I probe the second location, I found it is vacant, therefore I am inserting this one. Now coming to 41, it also evaluates the hash key as 1. Go and says the first location, it is occupied, therefore there is a first collision that is occurred. Therefore according to the quadratic probing, I have to next probe the location which is equivalent to h of x plus 1 square. Therefore 2 has to be probed. Again I probed 2. But what happened here? Here also the element, the slot has been occupied by another element, and here is the second collision. Therefore my I value is 2. Now what is the next probe element? It is equal to h of x plus I square. This is my formula, right? So h of x, I found it to be 1, and I square is equal to 2 square, that is equal to 5. So after the second location, the next location I have to probe is 5. So here I have done. 41 is inserted. Why? Because it is vacant. Right. Now coming back to the next element, that is 51. The hash key is again 1. Go and search in the first location. A collision has been occurred. According to quadratic probing, you have to make it as h of x plus 1 square. I found the value as 2. I probed second location, it is also occupied. So in the second collision, I have to make the I value as 2, and I have to calculate the hash key by making use of h of x plus I square. Fifth location. So fifth location I probed, and I found that it is again occupied by element 41. Now I got the I value as 3. So this is the third collision I got. So the next location which I want to probe is equal to h of x plus 3 square, that is equal to 1 plus 9, that is 10th. So I have to probe the 10th location. But is there any index related to 10?
No, sir.
No. In such case, what you have to do, I told that modulus operator helps you in such situations. So whatever value you get there, you
Again, apply hash function.
again, it's not applying hash function. Don't get confused. It's not applying the hash function. Right. This the first step is calculating of hash function. This is mandatory part, right? And the second step is if the range of values you get, if the key value you get is exceeding the range of indices, then you have to apply this formula. That's it. This is just a formula, not a hash function, right? So I got the hash key as 10. So since it is going beyond the range of this index numbers, I should apply the formula 10 modulo table size. Here the table size is 10. So it is going to give 0. Why we are using this modulo operator means when we apply a modulo operator by n, whatever result you get will be in the range of 0 to n minus 1. So for this purpose we are making use of the n as the table size, right? So I want to make all the values to be kept inside this 0 and 9 only. So I make use of this mod operator with the table size such that my index my ranges will always be inside this 0 and 9, which is equivalent to the index range, right? Please don't get confused that the second step is not the application or applying the hash function. It is just a formula where you are making the elements to be kept inside the hash table, that too within the range of the indices only, right? Only the first step, h of x and h of x plus I square, right? These are called as the hash functions, but the second step is not at all a hash function. It is just used to make the value to sit between this range of indices. That's it. Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Right. So I make it the 51, I got it as 10. So second step I have applied 10 modulo 10, the result is 0. Therefore I insert this 51 at 0th location, right? Now coming to 67. 67 means the hash key is 7. Okay, it is inserted at 7th location. 78, the hash key is 8. Therefore 78 is inserted at 8th location. 96, it is inserted at 6th location. 54, it is inserted at 4th location. 27, now tell me, 27, what is the hash key?
7, sir.
The hash key is 7, right? But the 7 has been occupied by another element. So I got the first collision, I is equal to 1. Therefore I apply the formula h of x plus I square. Here it is 7 plus 1 square, that is equal to 8. So I should probe the 8th element, right? But it is also occupied. Therefore I should use the formula h of x plus I square again. Now my I is equal to 2. Therefore this becomes 7 plus 2 square, that is equal to 7 plus 4. What is 7 plus 4?
11. 11, sir.
But it is going out of range of this index. So I should apply the formula 11 modulo 10. It is equal to 1. Again go and probe this one. Again I am getting a collision. This time my I value becomes 4. Right. Now it is 7 plus 16, 25. Am I right? Not 25. What is the value here?
23, sir.
23. But it is going out of the range of this 10. Therefore I apply the formula 23 modulo table size 10, that is 3. Therefore
3, sir.
3, it should be inserted at 3. So this is how the quadratic probing works. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So if sorry, okay, 1 minute. So if I take the first 4 elements, if I take the first 4 elements 21, 31, I don't know what happened to this one. Let us remove this, remove this, remove this, remove this, and this. Right. So if I take the first 4 elements, 21 is occupied here, 31 is occupied here, and after that the element 41 is not occupying the consecutive location, it has been thrown somewhere else, right? Therefore it is not going to form the clusters, even though it is a small cluster. But if you take the large and at this 51 it is occupying the 0th location, right? So you can observe here that there is a cluster of 3 elements, right? But this cannot be considered as a disadvantage in this quadratic probing. Why? Because if you take the elements, if you take the array size or the hash table size as the large hash table size, then such type of problems can be avoided. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. This is how the quadratic probing works. Right. Now let us go with the double hashing. It's a somewhat complex thing, and listen that what is the formula, what is the hash function that I am using for quadratic probing? It is h of x plus I square, right? So in some textbooks, some others will give a formula like you can use the thing like h of x plus 2 power I, where I is the number, collision number, right? So for the first collision I will get it as h of x plus 2, and for the second collision I will get the formula as h of x plus 2 square, and the third one I get it as h of x plus 2 cube. Like that it will continue, right? Anything is correct only, but I make use of this particular function. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right.
Sir, this session
So
is
for
not
the-
being recorded, sir.
Huh?
Sir, this session is not being recorded, sir.
Yeah, I am recording using this screen recording, don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah, I am not using the canvas recorder, I am using the screen recorder software. Okay, thank you. So let us go into the next concept, which is what we call it as double hashing, right? Let me explain it with a simple example how this double hashing is used. So what do you understand by this double hashing concept? What do you understand by the term double hashing?
Hash function by twice.
What is that one?
Applying hash function 2 times.
No, there is a difference between applying hash function twice or applying 2 hash functions. Now tell me whether it is applying 2 hash functions or applying the same hash function twice.
Applying to different hash functions.
Right, we are going to apply different hash functions, right? So whenever a collision is there, you are going to apply another hash function. So that is called as the double hashing. Just give me 1 minute of time. So is my voice clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. So this example I am taking it from the internet sources only. So whatever I am explaining, the examples, everything I take it from either the previous examination questions or from the internet, right? So this example I am taking it from the internet only. So let us take a hash table of size equal to 13, right, and let us assume that the elements, some of the slots are being occupied, that is the first slot is occupied by 79 and the second slot is it's not second slot, the fourth slot is occupied by 69 and fifth slot is occupied by 96 and seventh slot is occupied by 72 and let us take the 11th slot occupied by 50. Right, see here. So this is the situation of the hash table we have right now, and here my problem is I want to insert the next element into the hash table where the next element is taken as 14. Right, forget about what happened earlier, how this 79 is inserted, how this 69 is inserted. We are all not bothered about it. He has given a problem saying that this is the present situation of the hash table, and my concern is all about inserting the element 14 inside the hash table by using the mechanism of double hashing. Right, now we will see how we are going to implement this double hashing. So for double hashing, as you people said that it is a hashing mechanism where you have to use double hashes. That means you have to use the two hash functions. So let us take the first hash function as h1 of x is equal to x mod 13. So this 13 is nothing but the table size I have taken. Right, why I am taking the table size as 13? Previously when we are discussing about the introductory concepts related to the hashing, I told that there are some mathematical proofs where if you take the table size as the prime number, you will have some good results. So for that purpose I take this n as the prime number. Right, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Right, now I have to define another hash function, and I am defining the hash function like this, which is equal to h2 of x is equal to 1 plus it is x 1 plus x mod 11. Right, sir, is there any thumb rule that you should always take this h2 of x as 1 plus x mod 11 only? No, there is no thumb rule. Right, so this is how I am defining the h2 of x, the second hash function. You can define your own h2 of x or your own second hash function. Somebody will write like this 5 minus x mod 7, as it is perfectly valid. Right, somebody may take like this 5 minus x mod 13, as it is valid. So you can observe here that the modulo n value I am always taking it as the prime number to get better results. That's it. I am just following that rule, nothing more than that. Right, so any hash function can be taken as the second hash function. Right, first hash function is also the user's choice only, and the second hash function is also the user's choice. But if I take the second hash function as 1 plus x mod 11, what will happen, that I am going to describe it. Right, so the overall hash function, see here, the overall hash function h of x can be defined as h1 of x plus I into h2 of x. It's a simple formula, and whole mod 13. So this is how I am defining. So I can also write like this. Right, it's not a single variable, x comma I. It's all a formula based substitution. It's a very simple thing, you can understand. Right? So h of x comma I, this is my hash function I am defining. h of x comma I is equal to h1 of x plus I into h2 of x mod 13. So this is the actual hash function I should apply. Right, and this I value means at each and every iteration you are going to increment it. Initially the I value is equal to 0, and what is the value of x I have taken?
14.
14, sir.
Right, now let us see, x h of 14 comma 0 is equal to, what is happening here, it is nothing but h1 of x plus 0 into h2 of x mod 13. Right. So what is h1 of x? What is h1 of
One,
x
sir.
I have defined? No, what is the formula I have defined?
X mod 13.
So this particular h of 14 comma 0 will be evaluated to only h1 of x mod 13. I have h1 of x as x mod 13 and this is mod 13. So 14 mod 13 is, what is the value?
1, sir.
14 mod 13 is 1, and what is 1 mod 13?
1, sir.
It is 1. Therefore I have to go and search for the first slot, but it is occupied. So what I have to do? I have to use this formula, which is nothing but, now the I value, initially I is taken as 0, but now I have a first collision. So for the first collision I value becomes 1. So I have to apply the formula as h of x comma 1. So here my I value is 1. Now tell me what happens here. So the formula becomes h1 of x plus 1 into h2 of x mod 13. So we apply this thing. It becomes, what is the value here? It is x mod 13 plus 1 into h2 of x is
1
nothing but
into-
h2 of x only, right? It is nothing but 1 plus x mod 11 mod 13, right? So what is x mod 13? That is 14 mod 13.
1, sir.
1
sir.
plus 1
plus
plus
1
14
plus
mod 11,
3.
3
3,
mod 13. So it is equal to 4 5
5 mod
mod 13. So 5 mod 13 is again 5.
5.
So I go and probe the fifth location. Again this is also occupied. So I have to increment the value of I.
I
Why?
2.
Because it is the second collision, it has been occurred, and you have to apply the formula as h1 of x plus 2 into h2 of x mod 13. Now tell me what happens here. So this is 2. What happens here? 2 into h2 of x means it is nothing but
4
2
into 4.
plus what into 4? You apply 2 into h2 of x summa. So it becomes 2 plus 2x mod 11. Am I right or not?
Yes, sir.
So it is 2x mod 11. Now tell me what happens here. So it is equivalent to 14 mod 13. It is 1 plus 2 plus 2 into 14, 28 mod 11. What is the value?
6, sir.
6. Super. Right. And mod 13. So it is 9 mod 13, which is equal to 9. So the next location I have to probe is 9th location. Here I found that this element is vacant, therefore I insert 14 at this location. So this is how you are going to use the double hashing mechanism. Is it clear? So in the double hashing mechanism you are going to use 2 hash functions, and you are defining the hash function with those 2 hash functions. You can make use of any operation, right? X mod 10, x mod 13, x mod 11, 5 plus x mod 11, anything is okay, right? So this is how we are going to formulate the double hashing. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. So and the last point which we are going to discuss is the separate chaining. So we are clear about the linear probing, where you are going to probe the linearly the vacant locations, and the quadratic probing probes in a quadratic fashion, where I will be using the hash function as h of x plus I square, where I is the collision number, and the double hashing makes use of two hash functions and the formula like h1 of x plus I into h2 of x, where you can define your own h1 of x and h2 of x. Right. So this is how we are going to deal with the open addressing. Now coming to the separate chaining. Separate chaining means, as I told that, let us take another Word document. Are you able to see this new document?
Yes, sir.
So let me take a hash table like this. What is the size of the hash table? So size is equal to 10. Let me take it as 10. Right. And let us take the data elements as previously what we have taken. That is 21, 31, 41, 51, 67, 78, 96, like that, whatever it means. Right. Let us confine ourselves here. Right. Is it clear up to this point? Are you able to see this data elements,
Yes,
right?
Yes, sir.
Now coming to data, let us take the hash function as the h of x, a simple hash function. H of x is equal to x mod the table size, which is 10. So what about 21 mod 10? It results in 1, right? So as it is vacant, I insert it. Now coming to the next element, 31. So the 31 evaluates the hash key as 1, right? And I go and search this first location, first index location. I found that 21 is already present. So I don't want to probe the next elements. This is a separate chaining where you have to implement the separate chains, or you have to implement the linked list concept. You have to form a link, right? You have to form a chain. That means you have to use the concept of linked list. So I create a node for 31. And I link this 21 with this 31, right? So this is null part. And coming to the 41th part, 41 also evaluates to 1. Now I found that it is already occupied, so I create a new node and insert 41, and I link, I insert the 41 as the last node of the linked list. Similarly for 51, it also evaluates to 1. Therefore I found that 21 is already occupied, but it also consists of two nodes which are linked to each other, right? So what I will do is, I will create a new node, insert the element 51 here, and I make this 51 as the last element by inserting or by linking 41 with the 51. So this is how you are going to implement the separate chaining concept. So you can observe here that 31, 41, 51 are not using the locations of the hash table. So this is the first difference I have explained to you, right? So the separate chaining makes use may not use all the locations of the hash table. Why? Because they are going to form new links or new chains when a collision occurs. Right. So this is how you are going to implement the separate chaining. Similarly 67, it will occupy this one, 78 it will occupy this location, and 96, since it evaluates to 6, it is already occupied by 67. You create a node with 96 as the data, and you link this 67 with 96. Right. This is how we are going to create the separate chaining. Oh, sorry. Okay, let us take it as 66. Sorry, this is 66. This is how we are going to create the separate chaining. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Sir, one doubt, sir.
Yeah, please tell me.
సార్ ఇప్పుడు హ్యాష్ వాల్యూ 1 వచ్చినప్పుడు అక్కడ 4 వాల్యూలు ఉన్నాయి కదా సార్ మళ్ళీ సెర్చ్ చేయడానికి.
Yeah, that's what I am going to tell. The search operation, when we use this separate chaining, may go up to big O of n itself, right? In general, what is the reason for implementing the hashing? The first reason is in order to identify one element uniquely from a group of similar elements, and the second one is you are going to improve the performance of the search operation. At max you will have the search operation complexity as big O of 1, but here it is going to violate. Why? Because you are going to implement the linked lists concept. So if I want to search 41, first of all I have to apply this 41 to the hash function. So 41 is evaluating a hash key of 1, so I go and search the location 1, but the value 21 is not equal to 41. Then I just pass on to the next element in the linked list. Again I check 31 with 41, no, it is not matching. Again I go to the next element, 41 is mapped with checked with 51, compared with 51, so it's not 51, 41. So here I found a match, right? So this is almost similar to that of a search operation in a linked list, right? You can observe that a point which I told earlier, that linked list operations such as the insertion and deletion are easier, but I never mentioned about the search operation. Search operation is always a complex thing in the linked list, where if you want to find an element which is the last node, so for example I want to find the 51, right? So it may go up to big O of n. So this is the primary disadvantage of this separate chaining. Is it clear?
Sir, clear, sir.
Right.
Yes,
so,
sir.
But it is avoiding the clustering mechanism. There are no clusters here, right? You can observe here. It is completely avoiding clustering, but we have a disadvantage with the caching mechanism. What do you mean by cache memory? What do you mean?
For memory between primary storage and secondary storage.
Okay, whatever it may be, what is the purpose of the cache memory?
అంటే ప్రతిసారి సెకండరీ స్టోరేజ్ దగ్గరికి వెళ్ళకుండా మనం ఫ్రీక్వెంట్ యూస్ చేసే వాల్యూస్ అనే క్యాష్ మెమరీలో స్టోర్ చేసుకుంటే
right. The most frequently utilized values will be kept in the cache memory. So instead of searching it, going all over to the secondary memory and searching for the frequently accessed element, you just keep it in the cache memory. So before going to the secondary memory, you go and search in the cache memory. So here the caching mechanism has a drawback here. That means, for example, assume that 51 is the most frequently utilized value. But where is this 51 kept here? It is kept as the last element of the linked list. So it will almost go with the big O of n, right? So the caching mechanism is not that much effective when we are making use of this chained mechanism, separate chaining, right? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right, but we are completely avoiding the clustering. The disadvantage that we found in the open addressing is completely avoided in this separate chaining method, right? So this is all about the collision resolution methods. Once again, I just want to brief you all these collision mechanisms. Right. So a collision is a situation where one or more values will generate the same hash key, right? In such situation, such situation is called as a collision, and we have different collision mechanisms that are supported in the data structures, that is the open addressing and the separate chaining. Again, the open addressing can be categorized as linear probing, quadratic probing, and double hashing, right? So the disadvantage of the open addressing is clustering, and the disadvantage of the separate chaining is, we have an advantage of this separate chaining, that it is going to avoid the clustering problem, but it is having a less performance in terms of cache mechanism, right? So that's all about the collision resolution techniques and collisions. So this is end of today's session, but before ending, as I promised that I will be discussing some of the gate questions which were previously asked. What is your next class?
Free, sir. Aimlets.
Free, sir.
Okay, so let us discuss very few questions, simple questions that were previously asked in the GATE examinations, right? So let us look at this. Are you able to see the screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, shit, I'm unable to write here. So given the following input 4322 1334. Right. So for this I need to have the, what is this thing called, the PPT, right? I am unable to annotate on this PDF, right? So let us do one thing, let us end this session at this particular point. So this is end of today's session. Just give me 5 minutes of time, so that if I could rectify the annotation part, I will join again, and then I will tell you these few examples, right? So just give me 5 minutes of time.
Okay, sir.